Hi everyone, my name is Apoorva and I'm here with Michelle, my former co-founder and product lead at Smartly. Before I get started though, I'd love to get a sense of like who's in the room. So who is a marketer? If you can raise your hands. Okay, so like kind of maybe a little less than a quarter. How about developers? Okay, even fewer than that. Just shout out, what are the other folks doing? Okay, great. So we have founders in the audience too. Okay, great. Well, hopefully, this will be interesting. We'll have time at the end for questions as well. So yeah, definitely hold your questions. So AI is a term that I think everyone has already heard of. It's been around for decades, but it's really gained popularity in the last couple of years. Especially in the last year, we've kind of seen AI this and AI that, and there's been a lot of developments. And that's kind of led a lot of businesses to ask, what can AI actually do for me? And AI can do a lot of different things, and there's been so many improvements. Even like if you look at the beginning of last year, AI had a lot of difficulty generating hands with 5 fingers. But now, it can generate videos. We'll hear from another company that's speaking today about their foundational model for videos. You can have a pretty realistic and real-time conversation with it. So there's a lot that's improved. But with that, there's actually still a lot that needs to be done to actually make it useful and enterprise ready. And these are just some of the main challenges, right? One is actually finding the use cases where it even makes sense to use AI. It's not like a magic bullet that will just solve all your problems. And when AI is used incorrectly, it could lead to low quality. It could lead to, biases getting propagated, undesired biases getting propagated. So finding the right use cases is really important. The second one is knowing what tools and models to actually use. So it seems like every week there's like a new tool or a new version of a foundational model coming out, right? And that means it's really difficult to know what to actually use. And so that's why experimenting and testing is really important, or else you might be, using a model that was maybe 9 months old, and that's a world of difference in this space. The third one is making it work for the long tail. So when Michelle and I were starting Viral Space, a company that we started around 5 years ago, we found this problem to be true then, and it's definitely true now with generative AI. Back then, we were doing something that is a seemingly simple problem, object detection, knowing what's in an image. But the amount of problems that had was ridiculous. Like, I remember one time we were working with a fashion brand and we were using like a state-of-the-art object detection model, but it detected like the blush palette as a keyboard. So there's like so many instances where the long tail, it just doesn't work. So that means you need to build in guardrails, even have sometimes manual review. And then the last one is following brand guidelines. So generative AI is great at being freeform and being imaginative. Like if you want it to generate a chair that looks like an avocado, like it does such an amazing job with that. But if you want it to abide by a certain word count, it doesn't work all the time, which is ridiculous. But when it comes to brand guidelines, especially for a brand, that's so important that that's actually followed. And so that's where Michelle and I come in at Smartly. So we lead a team called the AI Lab, where these are the main problems that we solve. We look at various different AI solutions, various different use cases, and see how we can actually make it work properly. And so here's a little bit about Smartly. So Smartly is an AI-powered advertising platform that helps marketers run ads on TikTok, Snap, Meta, and more. We've been around for around 10 years, and we specialize in helping marketers with really complicated campaign setups. We built this thing called predictive budget allocation that basically helps you optimize your budgets, and this precedes Meta's own campaign budget optimization. So, we've been around for a while, and we have really great partnerships with these folks. And we're also not a point player, so we aim to own the entire workflow when it comes to reporting, scaling creative templates, optimizing budgets, as well as creating assets. And sometimes our CEO likes to describe us as being the biggest small company that you've never heard of. And we have some pretty significant numbers. One is, $5 billion of ad spend goes through Smartly every year. We generate 300 billion creatives annually. And a more recent stat is from PwC that validated that if you spend an hour on using like a native tool from a channel, it actually only takes you 18 minutes to do the same thing in Smartly. So you're actually saving 42 minutes on per hour that you end up using Smartly. Okay, so now focusing a little bit more. So as I mentioned, Michelle and I lead the AI lab. Specifically, we lead the creative side of the lab. So we help marketers make the most out of their ad creative. So that means we help them generate as well as scale images, videos, and text that they use in their ads. There's another team that does media AI that does more around budget optimization. So I'll be talking about that, and then I'll pass it over to Michelle to talk about what we work on the creative side. Okay, so media AI is part of our Smartly Media Suite. So in the Media Suite, there's a couple of things. One is the ability to create, launch, and edit campaigns across channels. The other one is using predictive algorithms to optimize budget. And then the third one is driving reach and frequency across audiences. So the Media AI team, again, like works on an algorithm called predictive budget allocation, and it lets you dynamically allocate budget between your ads and campaigns. And we've been doing this for a long time. And more recently, we've launched cross-channel PBA, which essentially lets you do this, but across channels. So instead of having to go to every single native tool and optimizing your budgets there, you can do it all in Smartly with like a single click. So this saves time, it's less error prone, and you're able to keep your budgets very, very fluid. And we've been testing this on a couple of different verticals, and the results have been pretty positive so far. Right now, clients are continuing to test and scale it, as well as use it BAU. One anecdote that I thought was interesting was there was this one time when Pinterest decreased their CPM by 3x, and we saw the cross-channel PBA allocate a lot more budget to Pinterest to increase the overall video views. So that's something that like shows that it can kind of adapt with whatever channels might be doing or whatever, global market trends may be doing. And we have a couple of case studies too. So one is Group M. So Group M was time and resource constrained when it came to, their marketing team, and they wanted to scale to new channels. And so they were able to do this using cross-channel PBA with basically a single click, and it ended up giving them double-digit performance increase. And another one is Didi. So Didi is an interesting company. They're multi-product and multi-market. So that means that anytime they want to launch a new product, it ends up being very, very complicated and very time-consuming to optimize. So with cross-channel PBA, they were able to let the algorithm kind of do the work and scale to new platforms, and it ended up resulting in a 6% decrease in cost per install. And then the last thing on this section is some new things that the team is working on. So one is performance forecasting, as well as showing the impact of recommendations that they provide. So this not only increases the confidence that you have about like how well, a recommendation would perform, but then it also shows you the impact of using a tool like Smartly to even optimize your budgets. So with that, I'll hand it over to Michelle to talk about the creative side of things.
Great. So the way we play in creative is very similar to the way we play in media. We care a lot about scale across platforms. We care a lot about bringing everything into one end-to-end workflow, starting with insights and briefing and all the way to your first draft, scaling your ads, and post-launch optimization. And we care about helping you localize and personalize across audiences. Again, this goes end-to-end across the workflow, but the hero feature is visualized here on the slide. It's templates that connect to feeds and catalogs. So when you design a template, you can set your layers. So here's your product image, here's your, circle animation, your product name, and maybe an optional discount. You can plug that into a feed that basically looks like a spreadsheet where one row is one ad. And when you link those two things together, you can make thousands of variants in just a few clicks. So we've been playing in the the non-AI creative scale game for over 5 years now. And I'll show you today how that gets super powered with AI. So here's how we play. Our goal is to add AI truly at every single step. So in the concepting stage, we provide creative and campaign insights. This is very much based on the work that Apoorva and I did at our startup Viral Space, which was acquired by Smartly back in 2021. When you get to the drafting phase, we help customers generate or search for assets. Oftentimes, customers actually have tons of assets, and the problem is more just finding the right one. So AI has been really good at going from Word to matching assets and helping with that. And of course, generating text or scripts or whatever else you might need for those raw elements. We then help customers put it together into their templates, so filling existing template designs or maybe even generating new designs in the future. Then scaling. So again, we already have been playing in the scale game for a while with feeds. So we apply generation across that feed, whether that's enhancing images with removing or generating backgrounds, cropping and resizing to different formats, generating text, producing new variants, and so on. And then post-launch, of course, we come back to optimize the ad. So on the media side, we have things like predictive budget allocation, which we just talked about, but we can also automatically detect ads that are fatiguing and rotate in and out different variants, provide recommendations of what to do to improve the ad, and in the future, we hope to get all the way back to closing the loop with automated iteration. So I'll take you through a few case studies that show how we do this. Starting with a brand you might have heard of called Foot Locker. So this is a global brand. We work a lot with both their Europe and US teams, and they sell shoes. Shoes across brands like Nike, Adidas, Reebok, and so on, with thousands of product SKUs. They already have been using templates for a while, so here is a super basic template with just the product image and with the logo. And we thought we could do better by giving them some insights and acting on those insights with AI. So an insight that we found for them is that backdrops make a big difference. So we saw that the CPM is much lower for studio backgrounds and nature backgrounds than other styles of backgrounds. And moreover, styled backgrounds do better than just the plain white background that they've been using in their catalog. And a while ago, if you wanted to do photo shoots like this, you might be able to do it on a handful of products, but you're not going to repeat it across your thousands or 10,000s of products that Foot Locker has in their catalog. But AI changed this. So I'll show you how this works. We always start with single assets and then we bring it at scale. So just to put it in context, here is what a Smartly template looks like. You have your image layer, your text layer, your price, and whatever else. And as I flip through, you can see that the product name, the image, and the price are dynamically updating without me doing any work. So that's just 10 variants. We could do the same for thousands, 10,000, etc. And that is plugging into quite literally a spreadsheet-based feed. They're not always in this format, but you can see that there's things like the image link, the title, and the price that are getting pulled in. So if we want to enhance the background, we start by first advising customers to always play around in what we call our AI playground. So here you can test any of our AI assists on single assets, get to the look you want, and then press a couple buttons to take it to scale. So I've sort of preloaded a shoe in Smartly colors for Nike with the prompt shoe on a rock in nature. But what I want to show is that just basic background generation is only the first step, and there's a lot to do to make this work for the long tail, like Apoorva mentioned. To help with this, we have features like style mimicking. So maybe a brand wants to actually mimic something that they've done in the past. So maybe they have a particular style of nature they really like they want, these nice blue water appearances. So I'll come back and show how that looks in a moment. There's also composition control, where you can actually set elements like objects, shapes, hands even, and generate within the bounds of that. So maybe if I wanted to have the rock be a particular shape, or I wanted to control the composition more, I can do that as well. So I'll show it in a moment once this generation completes. Great, here we go. We can see that this looks a little more like that style mimicking image I gave with the water in the background. And finally, composition control. Let's see if we've got a nice, platform somewhere, or maybe I'll actually use that same image and I can adjust my foreground, or at least I should be able to put the shoe here and then apply, and we'll see in a second how that generation looks. Okay, while that's loading, I'll show how this looks on a feed. So again, remember we started with this feed, one row is one ad. If I want to take this to scale, all I need to do is select the feed that's already preloaded. And there's a lot of feeds in the demo account, so it always takes a few seconds to load them. Let's see, Fucker. Then I just choose what column I want to generate on. I'll pick my image link here. I'll maybe use that exact same prompt that I liked over in the demo, and then choose that it's scene generation, and then we're ready to go to review and generate. If I wanted any more specific filters or rules, so for example, for shoes of some color, generate that matching color or a contrasting color background, that's totally possible. You can also apply the same style mimicking, composition control, and all types of other things like reframing the aspect ratio with the advanced settings here. But let's just show this. Okay, and again, while that's loading, I'll just pop back and show you guys how this looks. So looks pretty nice, I think. You've got the composition that you exactly asked for every single time, with still a little bit of variation due to the nature of generative AI. Okay, so now this is loading. I did basically this exact same generation earlier, so I will just show that. You can see that it applied the prompt that I gave it across my 10 shoes pretty quickly, and you can repeat this across thousands, 10,000, 50,000 shoes. Then, if I like the look, I can go ahead and push that to my source. So I'm going to give this name like AI Image Link Nature 2, push to source, and now my automation feed is updated with that new column. Okay. It might take a second, but yeah, here we go, Image Link Nature 2. And then all I have to do to remap that back into my template is select the layer, change out the name of the column I'm pulling from, and now here we have the newly generated backgrounds. So just a few clicks to go from one to many, directly linked onto the creative template. And you can imagine repeating this for the text as well, which I'll show in another case study in a second. Okay, so basically did exactly that for Foot Locker. And we ran an A/B test comparing that original template with just that plain white background versus their generated backgrounds in a couple different styles. I think we did a blue studio background and we did a nature background that looked a lot like what I just showed. And when we compared the results, we saw a beautiful 32% uplift in click-through rate and a 28% lower CPA. So I think what we're seeing is it's not only beautifying the product, but it is driving performance. I think I want to emphasize that a lot of you guys have probably seen players that do background generation. This was shocking and new a year ago, but nowadays, Meta has this in their playground. Google has this. A lot of the other players have at least some playground version that looks a lot like maybe the first section of the demo that I showed. But this presentation is all about the effort to make it enterprise ready. So let me talk through some of the things that were needed to get that good result for Foot Locker. First, the ability to generate directly on a product catalog, pulling and pushing. That has been a big unlock for our customers, so they don't have to download the feed, re-upload it, go through the team that manages the feed, and do that update. We can also even do recurring generation if you want an always-on generation column. Right now we can generate on up to 50,000 products at once. We've had customers asking for millions, so we're pushing up to that over time. We have governance, so cleanup interface and a managed cleanup service that can come in. So, especially if you're going at scale, you as the user are probably not going to want to review every single output on your own. So we can actually bring in a team to do that. And we have multiple model options for both background removal and scene generation. We have style mimicking and composition control, which I demoed, and of course connection to image templates for further editing and scaling. So we've actually really worked with Foot Locker to develop all of this from the first generation to now. We've worked with them to do things like style mimicking, where we copied a look that they did with their own photographer across their whole catalog. Okay. Very similar story for text. Here we worked with a brand called Tui. They're a big travel brand that does flights out in Europe. For them, they wanted to take their list of destinations they fly to and generate 3 reasons to go to the destination in a very specific format. So the blank blank in Dutch and in French. And you can see how it shows up here. So it's saying something like, for Murcia, I really like the tapas and so much more. So we generated 3 reasons to go. Again, more examples might be the vibrant nightlife, the rich historical heritage, the breathtaking coastal views. When we compared the tailored reasons to go to a more generic one, we saw a 10% CPA improvement. So again, what makes this enterprise first? What was all the work we had to do to go from what you might just be able to get out of ChatGPT to something that really works for our customers at scale? First, again, it's directly on top of the automation feeds, pull and push recurring generation with a force output schema. There's cleanup, there's a text guardrail, so we actually have AI review itself to make sure that it's following the prompts. And even things that seem very simple, like a word count, can take a lot of work. So we've workshopped that guardrail a lot. We have multiple model options, and we have brand voice controls where the best performing copy is sent to the surface and users can prompt their brand voice on top of that. And there's a lot more case studies where that came from. We have seen on average 27% uplift in performance and numbers as big as 200% ROAS improvement in one of our best case studies. Where we're going from here is to video. So we've been focusing a lot on image and text and integrating that into the workflow, especially at scale, but we know the industry is moving towards short form, so we are moving with it. And short form video is tough because it's very expensive to make video, and once you make it, it fatigues quickly. So we see our customers really struggling to keep up with the volume needed to keep performance high. So what we have tried to do is customers throw us videos, and we basically give them back a short form video or 15 with pretty good consistency across different types of videos. One example is with UGC talking videos. We break down the video into clips based on the natural audio transitions. We ask AI to generate new script arrangements, and it'll basically just cut up and rearrange those same clips and then output as many variants as possible. With a long form to short form, so sometimes there will be videos where there isn't existing talking audio to work with. So we have AI understand what's going on in the visuals and then generate new text overlays that go on top. So you can see it went from long YouTube video with beautiful visuals to a short form video that actually has a storyline. I'll show a quick demo of how this looks. So here we've already broken the scenes apart. If I go to Rescript and ask for make new variants, then we can come back and see this in a second. In the meantime, I've preloaded a couple. Maybe I won't play them for today, but I can review and I can output them into a template. So I can prompt until I get a few scripts I like, review, output into template, and then keep working with it from there. Okay, maybe let's give this a second. Okay, I'll come back to that in a second, but want to bring this back again to use case versus effort to make it enterprise ready. So with video ad assembly, the first sample that we did, that Smile Duet Club video with talking audio, we thought we had this in the bag, so easy. But what we found is there are so many different kinds of video styles. So there's videos that have talking audio and videos without talking audio. So there's videos of different lengths. There's raw clips. There's clips of different aspect ratios that we have to match together and crop intelligently, or maybe they'll have a text overlay already and we need to make sure that the script matches to it. So there's been a lot of work to make sure this works consistently across different video styles for scene splitting, for text overlays to guide the script, and so much more. We have different models for video analysis and rescripting and have played a lot to find the best ones that balance cost and quality. Of course, we've integrated this into Video Editor for further editing and scaling. And we have UX that makes it easy to view and edit a high volume of script suggestions. What I just showed is definitely not final. Our goal is to instead give customers like 15 different scripts to review at once, skim through, and choose the best ones to go forward with. So let me just see and come back to this. Yeah, okay. So here's my scripts, review, and again, output into template. So I'll pass it back to Apoorva to close, but I guess just want to emphasize, I think with AI, it's a lot to go from the very first attempt to actually making it work for you. And the work that we do here at Smartly is to really get down to that long tail, give you style mimicking, give you the ability to keep your brand voice, give you guardrails and manage cleanup services, and a lot of assistance to make sure that the cleanup goes well, and of course integration into that end-to-end workflow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think where we see the magic is kind of using all of the tools, the data, and the workflows that Smartly offers to automate larger workflow. So here's just one example, right? You have an ad that's fatiguing. You look at the creative insights that can tell how the ad should be improved, and then you use the tools that Michelle just walked us through to actually make those improvements, and then you observe how it actually performed. So we're really excited about how we can make bigger workflow transformations with AI.
Yeah, it's a great point. So what I demoed with background generation, that's probably only going to be relevant if you are an e-com brand that has like product-based ads. We have plenty of brands that are not a fit for that. So TUI is a travel brand, for example. We're not going to generate fake destinations that they fly to. Instead, we've been focusing with them on things like text generation, cropping and resizing, video ad assembly, template fill, and things like that. Yeah, so it's a matter of, for your creative, there's a bit of work to figure out what the right use cases are for you. I would say of everything I just showed, everything but background generation would probably make sense for you. So that demo was a little bit arbitrary. It's because the brand I was talking about was Foot Locker, but we also work with, JCPenney, for example, and they have a huge range of shoes, and also beyond shoes, they have accessories, they have home goods, dresses, things like that. So it's different prompts for different use cases, and we work with each of our customers to figure out the right looks for them. Okay, so you talked about personalization for sure. That is a huge part of how the feed structure works. So the reason that customers make different rows, it might be for, just iterating, having more variants, but a lot of times they are personalizing text or maybe even imagery to a specific audience. I didn't show that. I was very much focused on the generative AI portion of the demo, but the feed structure, yeah, that's exactly what it's meant for. I think work we could do to further improve this is make the prompts better connect to the personalization. Right now, the step between insight and choosing the prompt was done by us consulting with the customer. But the two, I think, will definitely loop together in the future. That's what we mean by this closing slide.
All of the assets and the data that we're using are like first party data from the client itself, because, we don't want to be generating a Foot Locker shoe because there's going to be details that are not there. And anyways, they already have product images, right? What they really need help with is trying to highlight that product and make it visually beautiful and engaging. So we're still very much in the exploratory phase of anything agents related. We've done some mini POCs and experiments, but what we realized is that even before we can get into agentic workflows, actually building the tools like the ones that Michelle demoed and as well as PBA is important, right? Because those are the building blocks and the tools that agents would use to actually string together. So that's been our focus right now. And for the POCs, what we've kind of just been playing around with is like AutoGen from Microsoft. But again, like we haven't actually done any deep dives onto agentic workflows just yet. But we do think that there's a lot that could be done, right? Like imagine a Smartly where you just ask it to do something and it knows what to do, or it leads you into saying like, oh, you should be doing XYZ. So that's kind of how we think a lot of time can be saved for marketers, because rather than you clicking and doing everything Michelle was doing, imagine like that being done automatically because it already knows the steps of the workflow.
Yeah, I think the stage we're at right now is stringing together the tools into structured workflows that we choose. So it's not necessarily an agent choosing to connect this step to this step, but video ad assembly that I showed is a great example of that. It's choosing, or like we're choosing that, hey, the step is first analyze the video and break it into scenes. User approves the scenes, user writes the brief, they see a bunch of clips, and then it turns into a video template. We're doing something very similar on the image side in an experimental way. So going from raw assets in a brief to a first draft, like couple of template designs, as well as scaling the feeds. So rather than you having to press each different AI assist separately to make new background, make new text, make another version of new text, all of those can happen together to actually produce like the full cohesive variant. So kind of like tools to workflows, and then fully agentic stuff maybe in the future.